Hi, my name is Natalie Ledwell, and this is The Inspiration Show. And today I have my guest is all the way from Australia. I want to welcome Warren Davies. How are you, Warren?
G'day, Natalie. How are you?
I am good. It's good to hear a good Aussie accent. I haven't heard one for a while, so great to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, pleasure. Now, the reason I've asked Warren as a guest on the Inspiration Show is because he has a very inspiring story, which is really what this show is all about. So why don't we start with that, Warren, and talk about your recent story, and then we're going to talk about some of the work that you're doing now and how you've turned that around into really being of service and helping other people.
Yeah, no worries, Natalie. Well, my story is like for the past 30 years, I was a dairy farmer, and so I left school when I was 16 and started working on a farm. Built my way through the industry until I was able to buy a farm at the age of 22. We bought half a farm next to my mum and dad and joined it to make a bigger business. And I suppose that started my journey truly as a dairy farmer, even though I'd been working in the industry for 7 years. But starting that journey, even though it was exciting, I had lots of things to learn, a lot of different things to just being a worker on a farm, and running a business, I suppose, and we moved into that and started building the business with my parents, which went really well. It was we were building, and the first. I suppose the first challenge that we come across was about 5 years into our business. We were hit with a flood, which was really challenging. We were underwater for about between 3 to 5 days, where the farm was completely underwater, having to learn different skills on how to be able to help the animals survive. Where I was used to being able to feed them grass, I had nothing to feed them. So for 2 or 3 days, we had our cows on a bitumen road feeding them hay along the edge of the road just to keep them dry. So I suppose that was the first challenge, and that really tested my resilience. And when we get to speak about what I do now, that's one of the things I speak about is resilience. Then we continued to grow the business further, but as we got to about the 10-year mark in business together with Mum and Dad, our directions changed a little bit. As it does on most family farms, I think, as the more people I talk to. And we're in a position where the family unit was starting to fall apart. So my wife and I decided that we would buy my parents out of the farm, and so we arranged that and worked into doing that so we could go into business by ourselves, and that's what we did. We bought the farm out. We went into a fair bit of debt, which put us under pressure. We needed to learn some more skills than what we'd already learnt, but we were working. We set up a 10-year plan. We were working towards goals, and we were kicking those goals as well. And about 4 years, just jumping forward again, about 4 years into that, we were hit by a drought, which with our current financial debt level and like feed costs and the commodity prices weren't quite right, put us under a fair bit of pressure, which eventually seen us having to make the decision, which was our decision, but it was, I wanted to go out on my terms, but we had to basically walk off our farm. So that was, a massive turning point in our life, because our farm was everything to us. It was our whole identity, and having to walk away from that and basically rebuild our life was going to be fairly difficult. That kind of put a fair bit of pressure on everything around. We had a young family at the same time. It also affected my mental health as well, and it was a bit of a struggle there for a fair while, and it took a long time to kind of dig our way out of that.
Right.
So from there, we were offered a job and we moved away from our hometown, and I've become a manager on farms where, once again, I got taught, had to learn new, or I taught myself new skills, or had to learn new skills about managing people and managing someone else's asset instead of mine. And it was a large farm, so there was a lot of reporting and stuff, but it was all about each one of these steps was about reinventing yourself a little bit as well, because each step you had to grow further and further to be able to manage and keep pushing on. Yeah. So from there, I managed a number of different farms and got to the stage where I'd kind of had enough of working for other people, because I'd worked for myself for so long. It was really challenging, and it was just putting a lot of pressure on me, and I wasn't happy. As I said, leaving our farm, we lost our identity. We weren't, a farming family anymore. We were working for, even though we were on the farm, we were working for somebody. So it was a totally different situation, and it probably wasn't as fulfilling as what it had been for the 16 years that we'd been on our farm.
Right.
So then I stepped out of the industry for a little while, and I did real estate, which once again had to learn another set of skills. But obviously I was still being able to talk to farmers, because I was a dairy specialist basically within this company selling farms, and I was being able to talk to farmers on a daily basis, which was easy for me because that's what I'd done. I'd been talking to neighbours and farmers for all my life, so or for all my working life, so that was easy. But it started becoming apparent that there was, I wasn't the only one that was going through what I'd been through in the last few years, as far as struggling financially. There was lots of people that were doing that, and there was lots of people that were struggling mentally as well because of the pressure that they were under all the time, because in the dairy industry in Australia, you're forced to grow basically because of commodity prices and interest rates, etc., etc. You're forced to grow all the time. So all these people were had a similar story to me. So it was started clicking the gears in my head to something bigger and better down the track that I could do, and kind of that's where I've got to today in what I'm doing. What I'm doing today, yeah.
Right. So what I see, for any Americans that are watching this video, and I mean Australians can probably relate to this. The way that you tell your story is very Australian. You kind of, there's a lot of emotion that's actually involved in this story of yours. You said there was a lot of strain. You said it's a bit of strain, and I felt, a little bit of this, and, mentally it was a little bit hard, but really, it was really diabolically difficult. And I know that with especially the Australian way is for us to just, toughen up and keep going, which is really our culture. But I think that, from your personal experience and obviously from what you've been seeing, that's really at the detriment of a lot of families and a lot of things that are going on. So tell me what the state of the farming industry is right now in Australia.
Yeah, I suppose just to touch on that point, Natalie, I was probably tarred with the brush twice, because not only am I Australian, or probably 3 times, I'm not only Australian, I was a farmer and I was a male, so
Exactly. Yeah. It's all working against you.
It is. It's all stacking up against me. So, but I suppose the current state where, like in our area now, I suppose we're not officially in drought, but we're in a fairly bad way as far as because we're irrigation farmers where we are. We haven't had rain for a long time. The reservoirs, the dams where our water comes from are getting low, and it's not looking overly promising for next year, especially for water allocations and so forth. They're predicting a zero allocation at the start of next season and up to 25% by Christmas time, which is, you can't operate a business at like that at those levels. Plus, that also then has another impact on the water price. It goes through the roof. Just for an example, at the moment, you can buy temporary water at the moment. I think it's about $210 a megalitre. Well, this time last year, it was about 110 to 140. So all of a sudden, it just adds to the cost, and then decisions have to be made. Whether you plant a crop or you irrigate it, or what do you do, and then how do you feed your animals, and how do you continue in business, and it just adds a lot of strain and a lot of pressure to everyone, and then that has a ripple effect through the communities as well.
Yeah. So, I know that you've had like a very personal experience going through this journey, and now you're working with a couple of organisations, and you're really helping to reach out to families and to men who are going through very, very challenging times. So what do you think is some of the things, if someone's watching this video or watching the interview, what are some things that they can do if they're feeling like they're really challenged and maybe feeling in a spot where they feel there's no way out? What can they do to help them get through that or to get out of that moment?
Well, the biggest thing, Natalie, is communication's the biggest thing. Is to communicate, because once again, being a male and then being a farmer is not a good combination. Farming's a very isolated kind of job, even though where we are, the farms aren't overly big, but it's an isolated, singular kind of job where you just go about your job. Even if you've got people around you, you're just focused on your task and you keep going. So you're not very interactive. It's not like working in an office or anything. So it's a lot of time to think internally, and sometimes that can be to your detriment because things just keep going around your head. And now what I do is, like, I speak, like I'm a speaker, and I run courses and stuff like that. One of the things I talk about is that the little voices inside your head that keep going, and unless you can then communicate them out, it can just fester and cause detriment to your own health, I suppose, is the best way to say it. Is that that little voice keeps talking in your head, and then you just you can go into a downward spiral fairly quickly. Yeah.
So is there somewhere that people can go for help? What's the best course of action they can take?
There's obviously it's to reach out to somebody. It doesn't matter who it is, what organisation or whatever, but it's to reach out to someone and have a chat, whether it's your doctor or it's a professional service or it's your mate. Just to reach out and have a chat to somebody, because, as I said, no one knows what you go, like, no one can understand what you're going through personally. It doesn't matter. Everyone's situation is different, and no one understands you personally, what you're going through. So unless you tell somebody about it, no one knows. So and unless you get that out of your head, or out of and express it to somebody, it can just take you down further and further. With all the added pressure, because once again, being a farmer, you just get on with your job because you have to. You have to get on with your job because every day it's there to be done. So pushing your own health to the background, or can be detrimental and can lead you to not a very nice place.
Absolutely. So tell me what you're up to now.
So yeah, as I said, I launched about 18 months ago a speaking business where I could communicate my story. Basically, it was just about telling my story and sharing my story around resilience and persistence and determination, and also about the lessons that I'd learned through farming, and having stepped out of farming and did something else, I realised that other businesses, my story is no different to any other business owner, and the lessons that I learned, about being adaptable and resourceful and all that, it can be then translated into other businesses. So I've developed like some workshops in that where it's not just farmers that I talk to any business people or community people. I talk a fair bit about resilient leadership as well, about being a leader within your community or your organisation. So that's what I'm doing now, which I enjoy doing. It's very rewarding to share your story and have an effect on other people. After you've finished a presentation and people come up to you and say, "Wow, that's an amazing story. It's fantastic," and then you sit down and you talk one-on-one with people. If I do a bit of one-on-one coaching with business owners, and when you start going through their story, like where they are at their business, I can relate that to somewhere where I was in my business and what I did, and it's just basic good advice. I don't delve into trying to be a business coach or anything like that. It's more about mindset and where you're at within yourself and how you can move forward.
It's all about that. It's all about that. So Warren, I want to thank you so much for joining me. It's been, our time's gone very quickly. But if people want to connect with you to find out more about the work you do, or the coaching that you're doing or speaking, where can we send them to do that? So
there's a couple of ways. It's on my website, of course, which is www.theunbreakablefarmer.com.au, or on Facebook, Warren Davies, The Unbreakable Farmer. You can catch up with me at either one of those places, and there's an events page on my website that will let you know where my next speaking event is, or where I'm running workshops, which coming up at the end of April, I'm doing a tour of regional Victoria through about 5 different locations where I'm running free 3-hour workshops for people to come along to. So awesome. So it'll be good to see people come along and listen to my story and see if they can take away some of the lessons that I've learnt and put them into their own into practice in their own life.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Warren, for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and you're a shining example of having everything go bad and wrong in your life and being in that dark place, but then to rise above it and then be of service to others. So I really appreciate everything that you do.
No, appreciate you having me on, Natalie, and thanks a lot, and hopefully we'll catch up again one day down the track.
Absolutely. So guys, I encourage you to share this video, and you can do that by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons on this page. And make sure you leave your email if you haven't done so already, so we can send you the Manifesting with the Masters video e-course. And if you click on the banner on this page, you can go straight through to Warren's website, so you can connect with him there. So until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.